Imagination, the doors of perception. Your imagination is the key to everything. Am I imagining something? What was that? Your imagination is the key to everything. Everything you see, everything you experience, everything you feel, it all comes through your imagination. That is your portal to reality. That may seem contrary to what you believe, but it all comes through your imagination, your ability to create. That's what your imagination is. What you see is what you get. That whole concept is more true than you might realize. If you can't imagine it, it will not exist. Now, the world we live in is a shared conscious reality. So we all have to imagine it. And there are certain liberties we could take within our own individual lives, and certain liberties we can't. We make agreements when we come here, and so our shared creative ability, our shared imagination, relies upon each other. So there's some boundaries you can't really cross. Maybe on a completely personal level you can, which is where daydreaming comes into place, and things that you really imagine very vividly, but they don't seem to manifest in the physical. Well, there are certain parameters, with the contract that we signed to be here as souls in this three-dimensional Earth reality, that we have to abide by. So there are some things, if you imagine really hard a unicorn, that unicorn will be there in your mind's eye, but it won't be there in reality for other people to see, because that's sort of crossing the threshold of our conscious creation as a collective. Okay? You could see it, but other people can't see it. But there are other things that you can create. And it's all through your imagination. Right here, this perception, everything that we experience is within our imagination. Now really think hard about that. There's a truth to this that eludes most people. Okay, but your ability to see and feel everything is sort of your brain reacting to electrical stimuli, right? Solid objects, a solid object is really just molecules with space in between them, so nothing is actually solid. Touching an object, you're not actually touching it, there's space in between, right? So nothing is truly solid. So does that mean nothing truly exists? Well, yeah. Well, so why can't I walk through a wall? That is the construct. That is what we agreed to collectively. Now, as we expand beyond that and go to, the fourth dimensional reality that we're entering into, some of those things will change. And as you get beyond a certain 3D physical barrier, where things are so dense that you can't pass through them, some of these, parameters will open up a little bit, and some people might actually be able to walk through walls. But it's still tied to your imagination, because reality is a creation and something that we all co-create. There are those who created this world. Okay, every world that we can exist in had a creator or a group of creators who put together these worlds. And when you choose to go to one of these worlds, you have to follow rules, and you agree to that. And that's part of the fun, and that's part of the process, and that's the whole experience that we are choosing to be a part of. And we come here en masse, many individuated souls, and we agree amongst ourselves to be a part of this and to share in the experience, which has certain boundaries. Certain boundaries can be crossed and some can't. Now, your imagination is key to everything, because this is the lens from which you create and see and feel and experience. We are in the midst of a great change right now, and your imagination is key to everything. Your ability to create comes through your imagination. If you can imagine it, and others can too, and we work together hand in hand, we will create that. It will exist. Now we're heading into uncharted territory as a collective, meaning that we are traversing one dimension for another, one density for another, okay? This density we are right in the middle of, shifting into, is less dense. So the molecules will have more space between them. And that makes it easier to create. So you need to sharpen your imagination. We need to stop arguing and fighting amongst one another, because it's our shared conscious reality, and we all have a stake in it. There's no division. And what we hope to achieve is, by and large, what we all hope to achieve. So, you know, the fighting amongst each other over policy and things like that is just something you gotta let go of. That's the old world, that's the old density, and we're moving out of that. And we gotta look towards where we are heading. And we need to just sort of float there. And that's a key phrase that I was given. Because as we move into earth changes and catastrophes, natural or otherwise, your ability to float will protect you from any harm or damage. What do I mean by float? Well, if you're in the middle of rough seas and you're flailing your arms about, you're not going to be able to stay afloat, and you're probably going to swallow a lot of water and possibly drown. But if you relax and ease into it and allow yourself to float, you will not be overtaken by those rough seas. And you have to look at this metaphorically as well as physically, because the imaginary sea is getting rough. So what do we imagine it as? As that rough sea, or calm and filled with love and protection? This is what we need to imagine. Unless you want to experience heartache and tragedy and pain, in which case go for it. That's cool. That's your thing. Just don't get in my way or the way of the others out there who are really on their path. And we're all getting to this new reality, whether you like it or not. It's coming. I imagine what's coming next without being too fixated on what I want it to be. If you fixate too much on what exactly you want, you're not getting it. It's going to cause, well, there's going to be cause and effect. So we need to get beyond cause and effect, which is very three-dimensional. That density is prone to disaster, and it causes, one thing hitting another and bouncing off and back and forth. And that extreme density is what we're being lifted out of. It may sound as though I'm being rather convoluted in what I have to say, but I don't know as though I should be more specific than that, because your imagination is key to it all. You're getting this. I know you're getting this. Your imagination is key to everything. That is your ability to see. And I was having a discussion the other day with someone close to me about gaining, psychic transmissions and communicating and those abilities. And she said to me, well, how do I know it's not just my imagination? How do I know it's not all in my head? I said, well, your imagination is something you have to trust, because that is where it's all coming from. Everything that you see in your head, in your mind's eye, is your imagination. Does that mean it's not real? If it's real to you, then it exists. Real is the base word in reality. So if it is real to you, it is a part of your reality. I do receive, psychic transmissions, messages from those who aren't here in the physical. This is something I've been doing my entire life, so it's easy for me to know which is my own imagination and, just part of my own, daydreaming or creating a story, and what's coming from outside that. I've gotten used to it, so I can usually tell the difference. What I would suggest to you to do when you receive messages or you hear a voice, not so much a physical voice like you hear somebody talking, but you hear it in your head. And how do you know that that's real? Well, first thing you do is you trust, because you have to trust your imagination. That's number one. There's no artist in the world who's ever created anything who didn't trust in their creative ability in order to do whatever it is that they were going to do next. It would not come into being if they didn't just go with it. They didn't trust their creative imagination. So that's one way to look at it. Now, as far as getting transmissions, getting information, downloads, as a lot of people are calling them right now, downloads of information that you don't know how you know this. So is it just my imagination? Well, you can check. Heck, with the internet now, you can go out there and search anything. I find a lot of times, I'll get a piece of information and I'll look it up and I'll be like, wow, other people are talking about this. Okay, it wasn't my imagination. That's a very real world way to double check. The other thing is that just go with it. Don't always trust what you're getting and then compare it to what you experience. Talk to other people, go on the internet, or just go about your day and see if that piece of information or that message that you got doesn't somehow connect to your life and what you're experiencing. After a while, you'll begin to tell the difference between what's imagined as fantasy or your creative abilities as a storyteller and what's actually coming at you from a real source that connects to our data. And then you'll be able to determine which is which. I've been doing this for years, and so it's a little bit easy for me. Other people are just coming into this idea of, how did I know that so-and-so was about to call? Well, you imagined that they would call, and then guess what? They did. Now, maybe you didn't imagine it today. Maybe you imagined it a week ago. But that wavelength of that broadcast reached them at such a time that the nexus point came together and they called. Anyway, just trust your imagination, because it's the key to everything. And we're at a crucial point right now, and I thought it was important to get this message out. I'm going to be leaving for the UK very soon, and I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks. And I don't know exactly what to expect. My imagination is running wild with me, and some of it is just what I would like it to be, and some of it is like, why am I having that thought? And once I get there, I'll know which is which and what connects and where the data points line up. And I'm also a little tripped out as to why I'm going there now in November. But I feel that with this energy wave that's coming in, and other people are talking about this, I suppose I'm supposed to be there. So that's another thing. Trust where you feel guided to go or to be. If you're meant to stay put, stay home, stay home. If you're meant to travel a short distance, a great distance. If you're meant to be with certain individuals, don't turn down an invitation. Just go with it. And you'll feel. If you feel it in your heart, that's a positive connection, and that's more or less a yes. If you feel it in your gut, that's a negative, and that's sort of a no. So these are my gauges for getting an immediate reaction to, should I do this or should I not do this? Is this true or is this not true? Is this good for me? Is this bad for me? So that's another little tip. But anyway, there's a great wave of energy coming in right now, and within the next couple of weeks, the rest of the month, the rest of the year, but especially right now, I feel like there's something really heading our way that's going to transition or transform many of us. And you're just going to have to be able to open up your imagination, okay? That visual portal, which is right in here, to see beyond the physical construct, because we're changing so rapidly, it's not going to even resemble what it is that you grew up with. The world already doesn't look like it did when you were a kid, right? In many, many ways. And that's just a precursor to what's coming next. So, allow what I've just said, all of it, to resonate with you on any level. Use your imagination to grasp it and fill in the points that may not make any sense to you right now. And your truth is the only truth there is, so I'm not going to be hardcore about making sure that you understand exactly what I'm saying and follow this list of bullet points and rules. No, it's going to work for you the way it's going to work for you. But we're all connected in this, so we're going to form a collective that reaches each and every one of us on a new, heightened level of consciousness and connection and our ability to communicate like we've never known. So imagine yourself being protected, comforted, and loved, because you are loved. Love is what this whole thing feeds off of. Anybody standing in the way of that does not choose love. They do not disseminate or have the ability to digest love. So they're on the way out. Don't let them distract you too much, because that's what they're really trying to do right now. It's kind of their last gasp of hope is to distract us so much that we go back to sleep. Well, you're awake, so don't go back to sleep. And I will be talking to you soon. If I can record anything and upload it while I'm over there in the UK, I will. But it'll probably just be when I get back. So I will talk to you then. I love you. And don't worry. Just open up your imagination